Okay, I think we can get started. If everyone is ready, are you ready, Lorena?
Just about.
Okay,
There we
and we
go.
are sorry for the no music, but she had to use a computer that heats a little bit, so she decided to not overtax the system this time around. So welcome everybody. And before I get to the official welcome, just a few housekeeping items. I think that we know to keep I think the cameras are automatically muted, but I think the mics, remember to keep your mics muted. And then as Dean Badillo says, she'll be monitoring the chat. I know Luz does. Lorena and I try to do, remember, mute mics, please. Um, they do that as well. So you can ask questions in the chat and they will be happy to answer those. Let's see, the attendance. Lorena will post the link for the faculty development credit for those of you who want EPCC faculty development credit. That would be those of you that have EPCC IDs. For those of you that do not, and that would be facilitators and then of course high school administrators, we are going to be downloading the attendance record. It looks to me that everybody's name, sometimes it's helpful to put your name and school in the chat, but it looks to me like all the names are written out this time around. So I don't know that you really have to do that. Um, Also, I would love it if we could have those of you that are brand new facilitators, or you know what, maybe I'll wait for this one until we do the other announcements. Loretta will post a session evaluation in the chat at the end of the session. And so keep your eyes peeled for that as well. We really like your feedback. And then also, I think you have seen on the rolling slides that we have two wonderful dual credit advisors, Catherine Guetta and Lauda Pimentel Madrano, or is it the opposite? I think it's
Pimentel. Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Okay, I got it right. And they are wonderful. And here they wanted us to announce that they're going to be doing some activities throughout the semester. This one that's coming up for dual credit students is a dual credit virtual scavenger hunt, and they do it in Remind. Um, and it's on the September 5th and the 6th. You will visit the virtual offices for 9 EPCC departments, and you can see what happens after that. And the students, it's kind of a fun activity for them to get involved in dual credit. Okay, and so what I was asking, for those of you that are new facilitators, could you please just raise your hand if you can see up there on the toolbar up at the top? We'd like to get a sense of how many brand new facilitators we have in the room. Ooh, that's good. Mm, okay, the numbers are
Woo.
climbing. Yeah. Okay, well, it looks like we're at 17. That's wonderful. We really hope that this will be very helpful to you, and please ask questions. You can ask questions afterwards as well. So we really appreciate that you're here and in attendance. So you can lower your hands if you so choose. Okay, so on to the welcome. Welcome everyone to our Dual Credit Connections, facilitating student success in online courses. And we really want to emphasize, I think Lorena and I are going to be talking about this, and of course Luz as well. And I'll do those introductions in a second, but we really are focusing on the role that all of you play in really helping the students navigate a college course. And so we're going to be talking, quite a bit about that. With us today is, of course, Dean Tony Badillo. You saw her she will be monitoring the chat. Ms. Luz Cadena, who is our Director of Distance Learning Support Services. Lorena Gonzalez, who is working all things digital. She is a dual credit instructional coordinator. And I'm Sue Selkin. I'm her partner in crime, dual credit instructional coordinator as well. And onto the agenda, you can see that what we're going to cover today is, the importance of the role. Some of it is a repetition. Those of you that are seasoned, you've heard some of this before, but we are going to be emphasizing a few things that maybe you haven't heard before as well. Facilitator role, the facilitator responsibilities, resources, and then Luz will be doing her section on distance learning support services. Hopefully we'll be able to have a Q&A, but the chat is always there for you as well. Okay, let's go on to the importance of the facilitator role. You really do, as an online facilitator, you play it's a vital component of student success. You provide support and contact, and I decided to add a little something to that that's not on the slide, and that is, along with providing that support, that also comes in the form of providing an environment for the students to be able, in that like 45 minutes or whatever it is at your school that they have to be with you as a facilitator. It's really time where they should be able to do some work. They should be able to ask you questions. If they have computer problems, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but that's something that's also very important. So just like providing an environment where you can have the students kind of checked in and connect and address any issues that they might have. So it's that environment that we've kind of gotten away from and we haven't talked about. Back in the day, it used to be computer labs, right? But now students have Chromebooks and, their computers. They're probably not just, but they're in a classroom. And so making sure that that's a relatively calm environment so they actually can get some work done is part of that support. You're also there to help with initial difficulties, navigating the online course, getting them into the course initially, and Luz will be going over that in great detail. You help in facilitating the students' understanding of what it means to be in a college class. I know that you're not necessarily a teacher of record, but having, they're tackling that college coursework. And so they might have, some need for you to give them a pep talk about that, right? And giving them some encouragement to be independent learners and advocating for themselves with the EPCC instructor. It's great that they're going to come to you with some issues, but there are some things that they really need to go to the instructor for. And then I think it's also very important that they understand, impress on them that this is not, we have a tendency sometimes to call these courses dual credit courses, and they're not. And I know if I could see Dean Badillo, she'd be nodding, right? Because they are college courses taken for high school credit. They're EPCC courses. So getting them into that mindset and understanding this is a college course that they're taking is also part of your role. Okay, I think the next slide. There we go. So sometimes we occasionally have some issues that occur in terms of the facilitator role. There have been, just a few red flags here and there. We've talked about them from time to time. And these are more like on our end, but, by the time the class opens, oftentimes the person that was named as a facilitator on the enrollment roster form, which is generated at your high school, changes, right? And so the instructor doesn't know who the facilitator is. Now, Lorena is going to talk about a fix, we hope, that we've come up with, and she'll be talking about that a little bit later. But just keep in mind that it might be a good idea to have your students tell the instructor who, that's what I do in my classes. I just come right out and ask them, who's your facilitator? But like I said, she's going to talk a little bit more about that. Sometimes the information just simply isn't updated. There can be some confusion sometimes over the role, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. One of the things that is not on this slide, but I told Lorena I was going to mention, is that it is so important that you as a facilitator know when the students are having computer issues. If they have equipment failure, oftentimes, I've had circumstances where it's 2 or 3 weeks before they tell me that they turned their computer in and their facilitator didn't know. And so that's really not acceptable, right? Because the students really need to have a replacement. I know that might not be possible all the time, but you really need to make sure that the students have functioning equipment so they can fulfill the requirements of the course. Okay. All right, next one. Um, and this I usually preface this one with saying, well, why do we even have a facilitator, right? If I can't instruct the students, why am I there? And well, the plain and simple answer is that our procedure, EPCC procedure, which is part of all partnership and interlocal agreements, requires that you have a facilitator. And it's for all those things that I just talked about, right? I mean, even if we're going to talk about the roles can kind of shift. I mean, some instructors don't have as close a relationship maybe with their facilitators, but even in that situation, there still needs to be somebody there to know how the student is doing if they're having trouble with something, right? And so the high school responsibility is to designate a high school facilitator for students enrolled in online courses. And then another bullet is they also are responsible for designating a dual credit contact. And it's really important that you know who that your dual credit contact is in your high school. It's most of the time an AP, but it might be someone else and the roles might be shared, like maybe enrollment is shared with a counselor, a dual credit counselor or something. But it's important because those are the people, the contact is a person who knows where the textbooks are buried. They know where, if they've ordered access codes, they, need to give you, and we're going to talk about that in a second too, your rosters, your EPCC rosters from the dashboard, although you can, yeah, the EPCC rosters from the dashboard. And so that's a very important, that's a very important person to know in your high school. Okay, on to facilitator roles. As I alluded to before, the relationship between an instructor and a facilitator, oftentimes they're kind of they vary, right? So, and a lot of it sometimes has to do with how many students from different schools you have. If you have all students from one school, I've found in my own experience that sometimes you have a closer relationship with the facilitator because you're just working with their students. And so it's easier because you don't have other facilitators involved. But I've also had lots of sections that have students from a variety of high schools. And that makes it a little bit more problematic, but you can still work with them. And, you just have to kind of determine the instructor and the facilitator together need to determine, what the relationship, what are the expectations? And I think that's an important part of it. Some facilitators are certified in the subject matter, highly qualified, and can give some more specific support. It doesn't mean teaching the course, obviously, but if they feel that they can give some tutoring or some support, they can do that. However, in some schools, especially like smaller schools, um, the person who's a facilitator could be somebody even from an office staff, or it could be a librarian or something like that. So this might lead to a more hands-off kind of approach on the part of facilitator. Sometimes there are changes to facilitators and EPCC is not notified, which I kind of talked about before. It really kind of makes it hard to know who the facilitator is. When I found that I was having students with computer problems, I just came right out and asked. And so in my summer courses, I had some students from high schools, and I just right away said, who's your facilitator? And I got great responses from all of the facilitators because I had a variety of high schools. So I think instructors kind of can nip some of that in the bud as well. Okay. And this is the 500-pound gorilla in the room. Although for a lot of facilitators, you're maybe a little bit newer and you don't remember a time when facilitators had guest access to Blackboard. And Luz is going to go over this as well, but I thought I would start that and then she can talk about it too. We do have a single sign-on implementation at APCC. And because you are not, in the system, you don't have IDs, EPCC IDs, you can't have access to Blackboard or other systems. However, that doesn't mean that you can't, I mean, it was guest access before anyway. So yes, you could have accessed the syllabus, but there is nothing that says you cannot stand over a student's computer. It's not a FERPA violation and say, could you access that Speech 1321 syllabus? I want to see the instructor's name because I'd like to contact them. And could you send it to me through email? You can, there's nothing wrong with that. So you can ask students for that information. Okay. So there's a little bit of a way around that, and it shouldn't make you not want to facilitate, right? Because there are things that you can do that are going to make up for that lack of access. Okay. And I think I'm going to end
Yeah, one more.
with, I have one more. I saw that. I thought
Okay.
Lorena was going to take this one. That's why she's reminding me. This really is not facilitator responsibilities. It's what you're not responsible for. And that is you're not the instructor of record, and you don't deliver course content assessments or assign grades. Like if you look in the syllabus and you see that there's a group project, you wouldn't be the person putting people into groups, right? That's the instructor's yeah, area, right? And also if, you're not going to be giving them like supplemental material and things like that they have to read in addition to the coursework. You don't submit final letter grades for students. The EPCC instructor of record for online courses will submit the final letter grade. The high school dual credit contact, that important person, they have access to the final letter grades through the EPCC dashboards, and those final numeric grades can only be requested through the EPCC registrar's office. So I couldn't, as an instructor, I can't give you the final grade like, Jennifer got a 93%. Because we only issue letter grades. Lorena, I don't know if you go over.
Yeah, we talk about the progress report. Yes.
There you go. There you go. Okay, thank you.
So oftentimes we get questions of, I'm a new facilitator. What do I do the first couple of days? So we put together some talking points and some major things that we hope will help our new facilitators get on board. Everything that Sue mentioned, right on point, and we want to make sure all that is followed. But first days of things, maybe in these next couple of days, since our classes start on Monday, you want to obtain your EPCC enrollment report. So that's our roster from your high school dual credit contact. Sue has mentioned that person is really important. And make sure that they are enrolled in the right place. Make sure the students that are sitting in your class, right, are on their college rosters as well. And if there are any discrepancies, you want to discuss them with your dual credit contact at your high school. And make sure you're checking this enrollment roster throughout the semester. Students get dropped for whatever reason, and that the two rosters are connecting together. As Sue mentioned, your high school dual credit contact has your textbooks, your access codes. So making sure your students have those as soon as possible. Issues with access codes, that kind of stuff, make sure you're following up with those contacts. Software, because these are online classes and so many of our EPCC instructors use different kinds of softwares, make sure your students' devices are up to date on Respondus Lockdown Browser. Make sure if there's issues with that technology that they are addressed as soon as possible. Other things to do throughout the semester, Sue's touched on this a little bit, is really helping our students navigate the online college environment, right? Making sure that they're reaching out to their faculty, to their instructors when there's issues about content. Maybe there's a due date question, an assignment's not showing up, that kind of stuff. The students, you want to encourage them to directly email, to message their instructors. And one other thing to add to this part, students who come on our campus, we try to help them with this as well. But even just simple things like how to write an email to your professor. I've heard stories and I've experienced it as well, where students write the whole email in the subject line instead of the body of the email. So things like that we can help prepare them for when they're in college on their own is really helpful there. Communicate with the EBCC instructor when problems arise. Again, Sue has mentioned this a few times. We want to know what's happening, that connection between the facilitator, what the students are facing on their side with the instructor. That communication is really important, especially when it comes to technology issues. So Sue has mentioned stories of months go by and we realize students didn't have their devices. So now, things have to be changed in the course for those students, things reopened if possible. So we want to tackle those as soon as we can. And Luce will mention who to contact when on our side, when technology issues arise here. All right, one of the last things we ask that you really help us with is encouraging your students to check their EPCC email. We know they have a high school email and they're probably used to checking that, but so much information and so many messages are sent through EPCC email. That is our official form of college communication. So we want to make sure those students are checking those. And maybe not just email, maybe I'll even add, make sure they're checking their Blackboard messages, make sure they're checking their Teams messages if the instructor is using Teams for communication. Oftentimes we'll get questions from students, we'll answer them, but then we don't hear back for follow-up. So keeping that communication open, encouraging them to check that and answer in a timely fashion would be a great help. The last item here is a student evaluation of the instructor performance. These have recently all turned online, even our face-to-face courses, students complete evaluations online, and the numbers haven't been great responses. So we ask for your help in this. Make sure your students are taking them pretty close to the end of the semester, maybe 3 weeks before the end of the semester. Students will start receiving this email reminding them to take their evaluation, faculty evaluations here. It does go to their EPCC email, which is why it's important that they check those emails regularly. And they'll get reminded every few days until that survey is filled out. These performance evaluations are really important, especially for our tenure track faculty. It is a big component of their portfolio that they build. So ensuring that those students take them and offer valid feedback. We always want to improve our teaching as instructors, and that can help us a great deal. We've touched on this a little bit already, but these are good reminders to keep on. We are not allowed to communicate exact grades to the facilitators, but we can communicate student progress, overall progress, if they're submitting assignments, that kind of stuff, but we cannot talk about final grades. Students, though, can request a student academic progress report, and the form is on our public website. You can go to our document section on the dual credit side. It's under one of the student tabs there. They can ask their instructor to fill this out. The instructor will send it back to them. It's a general kind of overall picture. If they're passing, what grade do they have, and then some comments, an area for comments. We do ask, though, that if students would like a student academic progress report, that they give the instructor time to complete them. If there's a class of 25 students and the instructor all gets these reports requested, it may take the instructor a little bit of time to fill them out. Sure, but it is a good place to get some feedback and for the students to see how they're doing. Of course, with all online classes, grades should be updated regularly through Blackboard Grade Center, so they can always go there to see their grades as well. As Sue mentioned, right, student facilitators can ask their students how they're doing. That kind of stuff, of course, is always another possibility. Any questions so far? I've seen the chat kind of quiet, which is, yes, this is good. Last few things. Remember, the final grades are sent from our registrar's office directly to your ISDs, and their grades are converted. There's different districts have different charts, but there's already a process in place to transfer those grades in that way. And for any FERPA questions, we have Robert Garcia in that admissions and registrar office to answer any questions regarding FERPA. I see somebody with their hand up. Liliana, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, so I have a question. For our, so EPCC, the grades, of course, they're going to be turned into EPCC. But on our end, as facilitators, even if the students are scheduled in our classroom, we shouldn't be putting grades into the grade book of the school, right? Because that's something that EPC, they will calculate with EPCC.
That, I think, if Tony wants to pipe in, but my initial response is, that's a high school question. Unfortunately, we maybe cannot answer that part. So check with your contact, your high school dual credit contact, to see how that works exactly.
That is the right answer. Different districts, different high schools may have different policies. So check with your, again, dual credit contact, your principal, your assistant principal.
It's a good question, but yeah, for your high school say.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions while we're paused here? David. David, if you want to unmute and ask your question. Okay, your mic is not working. Okay, well, David is asking his question. We have another one in the chat. Who receives the grades when you say they are sent to the school? I think it depends on the district. If Tony wants to chime in, yes, it's in the dual credit DPCC dashboards, how they're transferred there. A contact person for the student enrollment rosters is your high school dual credit contact. As Sue mentioned earlier, it could be an assistant principal, it could be a counselor. It depends on your district and your school. Sue? Yeah. Okay, so while we're getting some more questions in the chat going, I'm just going to wrap up a few things before Luce tells us a little bit more about Blackboard. So the talking points that we covered in the latter half of this, Sue and I have developed what we're calling an EPCC DC online quick info sheet. It's a really long name, and we're hoping that it's a quicker version of some of the information we've been giving you. But we found every semester we're hearing a lot of the same questions and the same situations that were coming up. So we thought if we could get this information out to everybody, that would be the most helpful thing. So we developed this quick sheet with the main talking points, the main ideas for each of our populations involved in these online sections. So this is posted on the dual credit website under the handbook section of that document page. So if you go to our website, click documents, and then head down towards the bottom, you'll see this quick info sheet. It has a section for facilitators, just reminders. You'll see some of the talking points that we had in our PowerPoint here. Just to let you know, if you have a quick little thing, oh, how do we do this and that kind of stuff, and you have that information. We have a section for our own EPCC instructors, so we're passing this around to even our side of the situation, reminding them that these are high school students, that kind of stuff, you know, how they can contact things and everything. We have a section for high school students. So for your students in your class, right? Don't forget communication is key. Make sure if you have technology issues, you talk to your facilitator and your instructor, you know, make sure the communication lanes are open, and to do your performance evaluation. At the very end, and Luce will talk a little bit about this, but this is a great chart. If your student has issues with MyPCC, who do they contact? If they have issues with UJA, if they're required to record something, who do they contact? If they have a due date question, right? Just a little clearer space where they can figure out this is the person I need to talk to. So this is the first iteration of our quick sheet, and we're hoping that this helps alleviate some of the questions of things. If you have advice on this, if there's something that you think should be added, please let Sue and me know. Contact Tony's office, she'll pass it along to us. But we're hoping that this can help with some of these situations that we keep hearing about and seeing and all that good stuff. One thing that you'll notice when you read through it, all three sections talk about is getting that connection between the professor and the facilitator. So we added this information to help with that connection, which I know we have been missing for a bit. The program's just so large. Our old method wasn't working out anymore. So we're hoping this will help. Ask the students to email their professors to talk about, like, this is my professor, this is the syllabus. If talk to facilitator, to reach out to the high school teacher, the college professor, having our professors reach out to the students like Sue did to get the info. Just however we can make that connection, we're hoping that this can help. So please let us know the feedback on this. If it's working, if there's something that's not working, we would really appreciate it. A lot of this stuff, by the way, was taken directly from our handbook. So there is a more in-depth handbook available on that website. You'll see it in the same section. But if there's just something really quick you want to know about, hopefully it's on the quick sheet. Sue, did you want to add anything?
I had something real quick. You mentioned Teams before, and I know that Luz usually doesn't talk about Teams because that's not her area. But many of us, and I'm included in that, use in our group work, we use Microsoft Teams for our students. And sometimes the students are confused because they keep saying, well, my group's not in Teams, but they're using their high school Teams. And so if they're having trouble, have them log in with their EPCC credentials using the link that's provided. That should clear it up. If not, then they need to call our IT help desk at 831-6440, which I think is in the contact. And I don't want to take up Luz's time, but that's a little hint if they, have some problems.
Yes. And I'm hearing more and more variations on communication. So like Remind, I know instead of use Remind, now it's Teams in there. So it's just making sure that the students are checking messages too. Are there any questions so far on this first part? All right, then, Luz. Now we'll get to the nitty-gritty about the actual Blackboard stuff.
All right. Thank you all. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Luz Cadena. I'm the Director of Distance Learning Support Services, and I want to share some helpful information to help you and the students, our students, have a successful semester. All right. So one of the first things we're going to struggle with next week is student access to Blackboard. If we can go to the next slide, please. The biggest roadblock to students accessing Blackboard is that they do not know their EPCC login credentials, especially brand new students to dual credit. They don't know their EPCC email address, or they may not know their EPCC ID numbers. The EPCC ID numbers, excuse me, should be on the rosters that you have. And if anyone there with Lorena or Sue or Di Mario can confirm that for me, but I believe their ID numbers are on the rosters. So if they don't know their EPCC username, they can use their ID to find their username, and then they can use their username to reset their password. So they do need these login credentials to access Blackboard. If they don't have those credentials, they will need to contact the EPCC IT department. And fair warning that the first couple of weeks of school, the wait time at the help desk can be substantial. So if you can start getting students to get that login information now, that would be great, before on Monday. So get students to log in. They can log in to my EPCC starting now. So please have them practice that the next couple of days before Monday comes around. Now, if students don't know any of that information, they can go to epcc.edu, which is the EPCC website. They click on the little hamburger icon where it says menu. The menu on the left, on the right, excuse me, will open, and they can use the three options there to get the information they're missing. So if they do have their ID number, but they don't load their username, they can use that first option there that says forgot username. But if they do know their username, or they've just learned what it is, they can now change their password or click forgot password. Now, there's an additional roadblock here when using account recovery. In order to change the password or gain access, the student must have a personal email in the Banner system. And that email comes from their Apply Texas application. So just like many of us, if we want to reset our password to pay our credit card and we forget our password, we say forget password and they send a link to your personal email to reset it. That's exactly how it works at EPCC. And if they don't have that personal email in the Banner system, then there's no way for them to reset it. If they call the help desk, they're going to struggle because the help desk wants to verify their identity. And we have had the IT help desk tell dual credit students before, it's best if they come to campus, and it's really not very possible. So again, if these issues can be resolved now before Monday, that would be wonderful. Now, here's another trick to helping students getting access to everything at EPCC. Sometimes students will call the IT help desk here at the college and say, I can't access my Blackboard. And because the student said the word Blackboard, IT will immediately transfer them to us at distance learning. And distance learning, we do not oversee passwords. So if students are going to call the IT help desk, please tell students to say, I cannot log into my EPCC. Because if they can log into my EPCC, then they can log into Blackboard. So always try to have them log into my EPCC first. I'm telling you this just because I want to avoid students getting the runaround. It's very disheartening for the student to be transferred back and forth, and we want them to be helped immediately, okay? But if after trying multiple things don't work, please feel free to call us. That way we can help you by either, I don't know, intervening on your part or something. I don't want you to just kind of throw your hands up and feel like no one at EPCC is trying to help you. If the help desk is not being very helpful, please, by all means, contact distance learning and we will figure something out. Okay. All right. Once students log into Blackboard, they will be greeted by the base navigation page. That's what that first login page is called. There'll be a menu on the left-hand side. The third, or I think fourth link from the top will say courses. They click on that and they're going to have to use that middle drop-down menu where it says terms to navigate to current term. And when they select current term, their courses will pop up, the courses that they are taking now. Okay. And then they'll see course cards on the page. They simply click on one of the course cards and they are inside the course. So courses open to students at 12:01 a.m. on the first day of the course, which in most cases is August the 26th. And they close to students at 11:59 p.m. on the last day of the class. So students need to make sure that they submit all their coursework by those deadlines that the instructor has set, because distance learning, we cannot open courses early, nor can we keep them open late. Those are all controlled by Banner. And so we cannot override Banner. Okay. All right, moving on here. A couple of FAQ about courses. Sue and Lorena have already touched on this a little bit. Unfortunately, facilitators no longer have access to Blackboard courses. They did mention that you could and you should kind of peek over students' shoulders to just peek at the courses. So yes, you have our permission to be nosy. Please be nosy when it comes to students' courses. Look over their shoulders. If you have concerns about something, again, as it bears repeating, reach out to the instructor. If it's something Blackboard related, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you. We've already talked about opening courses early. Unfortunately, we have looked into opening courses early for dual credit students, but it's just not possible. We've been told we cannot do that. Sometimes students log into Blackboard, they log into their course, and the course is empty. The course is empty. So if that's the case, please contact the dean or the coordinator immediately. If you don't know who that is, you can certainly contact us at Distance Learning, or we can certainly relay that message. Typically, those things happen because there's been a change in assignments for faculty up until, the first week of classes. Courses are still being assigned to faculty or being switched out. So it's possible the faculty was just assigned a course and they just have not had time to put content in the course. But better to be safe than sorry. So if you don't see any content in the course, there's absolutely nothing, please reach out to us so that we can figure out what's going on. Okay. Now, what if the student logs into Blackboard, but there are no courses listed for them on Blackboard? So the first thing we need to do is check their registration. Are they registered for the course? Because all the information is in Blackboard is provided by Banner. Blackboard doesn't do anything independently. Enrollments, faculty assignments, all of that is provided in Banner. So it has to be processed in Banner first, and then Banner will send it to Blackboard. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't happen instantaneously. Banner updates Blackboard 3 times a day, 7 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. So if they were just registered at 8 a.m., they may not appear in Blackboard, or the course won't appear to students in Blackboard until 3 p.m. And of course, because dual credit students are registered manually, again, that can take a little bit more time. But if it's been 24 hours, for sure the student has been registered, then contact us so that we can see what's going on. Okay, but you have to make sure that they are on that EPCC enrollment form first. That's always the first step, to confirm that they are enrolled for the course, or yes, for the course. Okay. All right. Troubleshooting. So we call this the black screen of death. Everybody gets this screen. You get this screen when you leave Blackboard open on your browser without working in it. And as a security measure, it shuts you out. So if you get the black screen of death, the first thing you want to do is click that gray bar at the bottom that says return to login page. Click on that to see if it takes you back to the login page. I will tell you that about 9 times out of 10, it will not take you back to the login page. So if that happens, close the browser completely, or have the students close the browser completely, open it back up and log back into Blackboard. It adds more steps, but you have to log in. It should clear that up. If for whatever reason, last resort, that doesn't work, the student, or we have faculty in the room, faculty need to clear their browser history. And if students don't know how to clear their browser history, we have some instructions for them on the Blackboard Assist page, which is the next slide. So on the Blackboard Assist page, it's one of the links on that menu in Blackboard on the left-hand side. We have a variety of links to resources for students. All the resources are in alphabetical order. There's one that's called Clear Your Browser History. What I want to recommend is maybe that first week of class, you have a student navigate through the Assist page, open that How to Clear Your Browser History and print it out for you or email it to you so that you have a copy of it. Because the problem is, if the student can't log into Blackboard, how can they get to the Clear Your Browser History? You can also Google or search on any browser how to clear your browser history, and you can find it there too. But it'd be a good document for you to have in your back pocket if you ever need it. On that Blackboard Assist page, we also have a lockdown browser and monitor guide for students about how to download and install Lockdown Browser, or how to take a test with Lockdown Browser. That might be a good document for students to email to you also. Okay. So speaking of Lockdown Browser, because students are using their ISD or high school laptops, that should already be installed for them. Andy Lawrence, my technical coordinator and LMS administrator, is in contact with your school district IT departments and school IT departments. And anytime we have any updates to Lockdown Browser, he pushes it out, sends it out to them so that they can push it out to student laptops. So everything should be up to date. Yes, everything should be up to date. But if for some reason it's not working, you do need to contact somebody immediately. I would say multiple somebodies. The instructor, your IT department at your district or your school, And why not contact DLSS? Better to over contact than not contact at all. We have had instances where schools have gone a couple of months without being able to use Lockdown Browser, which means students haven't been able to take their assessments. So it's been said, again, it bears repeating, contact is important. We'd rather you contact us for something and it be a little thing than you not contact us and it turns out to be a really big thing. So yes, please communicate. Okay. All right, let's move on here. It's already been mentioned that college email is important for students, and we know students don't do email, but they really need to do their email. Another reason to have students check their college email is because there is a connection between Blackboard and EPCC email. First of all, it's the same login credentials, so they don't need another password to log into their emails. As a matter of fact, as soon as they log into My EPCC, there's a link on the left or on the top of the page that says email, and they can very easily access their email. There is also a way for them to add their email account to their mobile devices, or even to forward their college email to their personal email if they want to just manage one email. So there's really no excuse as far as access to email is concerned. Students can opt in to notifications from Blackboard via email. So if there's some kind of notification as far as grades are posted or something is due, they can get notifications through email. Students can also receive copies of faculty announcements, faculty reminders, and very importantly, they also get copies of assignment and test submission receipts. We also at Distance Learning every once in a while send important information or emails out to students, especially if Blackboard's going to be down for some reason, knock on wood, that hasn't happened in years, but should we need to communicate something to students, we will do that through EPCC email. So let's talk about submission receipts. So many of us remember the days of Dog Ate My Homework, right? Those days are gone. It's 2024, and now it's Blackboard ate my homework. I promise I turned it in. I promise it must be a glitch in the matrix. Blackboard ate my homework. So anytime a student submits an assignment or a test in Blackboard, a receipt pops up on their screen, letting them know that they have successfully submitted that assignment or that test. It'll give them a lot of information, the name of the assessment, the date down to the minute that it was submitted, whether they submitted it or whether it was auto-submitted. Auto-submitted means they were taking a test that was an hour long and they ran out of time and Blackboard submitted it for them. It'll have the size of the submission. Students think they can get away with submitting a test or an assignment without attaching their paper and claim it was a Blackboard error. Well, if they didn't attach anything, it will say 0, the size of the paper. So faculty, keep an eye on that. So they'll get this receipt, but they'll also receive this very same information in an email. Okay, so it's important that they not delete those receipts, because should something happen, we're not saying things don't happen in Blackboard, they do. Should something happen and the instructor says, I did not receive your submission, the student has the receipt. I did submit it this date and time. It does say a file size, whatever it happens to be. Then we can investigate what did happen. Did something happen in the system? But those receipts are very, very important. Please tell them not to delete them. Now, one more thing about receipts. You'll notice there's a confirmation number on that receipt. It's a very long list of numbers and some letters. Faculty have the ability to check those confirmation numbers in their Blackboard courses. For example, should a student say, I don't have the receipt, but I have the confirmation number, that's already suspicious right there. But the faculty can say, fine, send me the confirmation number. The faculty member can plug in that confirmation number in the gradebook. And if it matches anything in the course, it will pop up. And it happened once before where a faculty's spidey senses tingled when the student presented a confirmation number. The faculty called the Blackboard help desk, and the help desk said, yes, that is a legitimate receipt number. However, it was for a course from last semester. So faculty can still confirm those confirmation numbers. I tell students that Blackboard's like the NSA. We can tell where you've been, what you've been clicking, what you've been working on. It really does track student movement through the course. So that's important for them to know. Okay, all right. Every semester, Distance Learning Support Services creates a Learning with Blackboard at EPCC student handbook. The fall handbook is available. It's on that Blackboard institution page. On the Blackboard Assist page. This is a great handbook to go over with your students before the EPCC term begins. I know, again, you have a few weeks to fill in with other instructional content before the course begins. This is a great handbook to go over with them. If you want us to email you a copy of the handbook, simply email us. It's really easy. Our email, DLSS, Distance Learning Support Services, @epcc.edu. And just ask for, thank you, Ms. Lorena, just ask for the fall student handbook and we can email you a copy. And there's lots of great information for students in that handbook. And it's a great thing you can probably easily spend a couple of class periods, depending on how long your class periods are, going over the handbook with your students. So take a look at it. And we also have one for faculty if you're curious about the faculty handbook. Okay. Where to go for assistance? We've already gone over this, but again, bears repeating. If the student is having trouble with their school issued device, browser issues, installing lockdown browser, making sure that the computer and the browsers are up to date, that always goes to the ISD or high school IT department. Okay. Now, if it's related to Blackboard, Respondus lockdown browser, the student has it on the computer, but it's not working, issues or questions about Collaborate, Smarter Measure, or UJA, that is distance learning. Okay, so students go to the EPCC website and search for distance learning. You can see a green Get Connected button. That connects students or you as a facilitator, if you need to speak to us, to our virtual office. Now, when students have issues with Blackboard, it is sometimes easier to talk to them on the virtual office because we can have them share their screen. Sometimes students or even faculty are trying to explain their issue over the phone, and it's hard to understand what they're talking about. For example, they'll say, I'm clicking on the thingy and it's not working. Well, what thingy are you clicking on? I can't visualize that. But if they come to our virtual office and we have them share their screen, we know exactly what thingy they're clicking on, and we can tell them that's the wrong thingy, click on the other thingy on the right-hand side. Okay. Now, distance learning is available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., which is why we also contract a help desk. The Blackboard help desk is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at a toll-free number, 888-296-0863. Now, the beauty of the help desk is if a student calls for assistance, they will be given a ticket number. That is evidence that they called the help desk for assistance. So if they are experiencing technical issues and they can't submit their assignment, they can't take the test, and they call the help desk, they can provide that ticket number to the instructor as evidence that they had an issue and they tried to resolve it. By the way, the instructor can confirm that help desk ticket number with the help desk. We had an instance again where a student submitted a help desk number, but it was from another semester or another class, something like that. So all of that can always be verified by the instructor. Okay, so bottom line, there's always help available. Now, we do still have, that's fine. We still have a few Blackboard help desk posters available. If you don't have any of these in your computer lab or your classroom and you would like some, please email us at dlss@epcc.edu. Let us know how many of these posters you would like. They're not very big, but they're nice. And we can drop them off. We'll figure a way to get them out to you. And you can put them up in your classroom or your computer lab. Okay. Oh, there's our email right there. All other technologies at the college are overseen by the IT department. Distance learning is an instructional department. We're not a part of IT. And I always have my Seinfeld moment, not that there's anything wrong with being a part of IT, but we're just not IT. So the scope of the technologies we deal with are very narrow. All other technologies at the college are the IT department. So my EPCC login credentials, email, banner, Teams, any kind of Microsoft Office products, OneDrive, and I'm trying to think of anything else, but everything else is through the IT department. And of course, as is indicated on that chart that's already been shown to you, if students have questions, excuse me, about the course, they need to contact their instructor. Instructions, directions, if course content is missing, if they've missed deadlines, if they're having issues accessing publisher content, or questions about access codes, materials, all those kinds of things, they should go to the instructor. Okay. And that is all I have. I don't know if anyone has questions. Happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
Yes, this presentation is already there. If you go to our documents page on our website, we were able to put it up early this time around. And if you go scroll to the bottom to the professional development section, you'll see the fall 24 PowerPoint. We'll update that PowerPoint presentation with all these slides. And then the last slide on that updated version will have a link to the recording. Somebody had asked for the recording earlier. But while we're here, do we have any questions?
Hi, Lorena. It's Diana.
Hi, Diana.
I just wanted to mention that, to the facilitators, if they would like one of our dual credit advisors to go to the classrooms and show students how to access their Blackboard, email, DegreeWorks, that would be great. So just to reach out to one of our dual credit advisors, I believe I saw Miss Catherine Guerra here. So if she could provide, if she could provide her email, that would be great. So the facilitators could, reach out to them, and they would be more than happy to go and show students how to access all of this good information.
Yes, and the facilitator information is here on the screen, just to kind of guide everybody to the documents page. If you didn't click on the link earlier, dual credit page on the left side. Scroll to the bottom is the instructor handbooks. There's that quick info sheet we talked about earlier. And then the fall version, the PowerPoint we just went over, is currently here. It'll be updated with a link to the recording in the next few weeks. Another question. Yes.
There was a question in the chat. Audrey had a question.
Oh, how to find AST 150. If you stay after, I'll show you the map.
Luis already answered.
Okay. We have a hand up. Yes.
So, does this count towards the? Because I also teach for EPCC. Does this count as my one workshop?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you sign in?
Yeah.
Did you sign in? Okay.
Yes, I put my name. I just didn't sign in with my EPCC credentials.
Let me post the link again in case anybody else missed it, and make sure you sign in there, and that will count for your credits.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I also posted in the chat the evaluation. If you can let us know how this goes. Can you repeat how we get an EPCC person to come to campus? Yes. So we have advisors. A couple of advisors who are travel around the city for different reasons, but Catherine Guerra here and Laura Cimental Medrano, they can come to your campus. We've also heard situations where the instructor or EPCC instructor is able to travel to the high school campus and visit with the class. It gets a little tricky if their online section has multiple high schools in there. But it depends on the relationship, and that's why we say it varies between instructor to a facilitator. But we do have some resources there.
Debbie has her hand up.
Debbie.
Hi, thank you
Deb.
for taking my question. I'm still a little confused about access codes. So what is it that I tell my students? Do I indicate it on the syllabus on how to get those access codes, or the facilitator has that?
Well, doesn't that
Answer that.
Oh, Tony.
If you don't mind. So it really depends on the high school, right? So that's why it's so important to have a good communication with a facilitator and them with a dual credit contact. We have some districts that love that many of our textbooks are now first day adoption, so the students can access them directly and the schools are billed at the end of the semester. Some large districts are using a company called Biblio to get those access codes from a middleman, let's say. And some districts actually purchase them in bulk. And so that's why we cannot give you the one answer, right? It really depends on the school and the district. So please reach out to the facilitator or ask the students to reach out to the facilitator and find out how that particular school access codes. We have some courses that have OER, Open Educational Resources, and they're embedded in the course. So we have multiple options. And again, the schools have multiple ways of accessing those resources.
Okay, great. Thanks.
There's another question in the chat about textbooks. Can you please provide the list of book companies that are being utilized by campuses?
Don't know that I understand your question, Mr. Valdez. So again, it depends on the publishing company, right? So some districts work directly and purchase in bulk, right? So perhaps that's an option that you have. If not, and I don't know if that's available yet. So where it says textbooks, thank you, Lorena, for posting that on our webpage. We typically post the OER list. So right now we already have the OER list for fall, and it shows which sections, right, will be OER, and they will be either free to the students or cost about, I think, $25 per student. And as soon as it is available, we also upload the first day adoption. We don't have the first day adoption list for fall yet, but you can see the one for spring, and it shows the cost for every textbook, and that is directly from the Blackboard course. If your students already have those resources, they can opt out, but if not, they can use the resources and your school or district will be billed at the end of the semester. And I had mentioned Biblio again. I would say Isleta district is the one that uses Biblio the most right now. I believe Socorro might be using some of it. I'll type that name in the chat. I hope that answers your question, Ms. Evelis.
All right, so we want to be mindful of your time. We know it's already 6:02. So thank you everyone for coming. If you do have additional questions, please reach out. This is the main contact info for dual credit, but the question can get to the right person as needed. So if I'll post the sign-in sheet and the evaluation one last time, if you need to sign in and give us some feedback, that would be great.
I want to thank everybody for coming too, and I hope that this has maybe underscored all the resources every time we do that, I know, but all the resources that you have available to you, and that you really are, as facilitators, who are all important, but you really are an important part of this equation. And so we hope we're here for you too, Lorena and I both, if you have any questions.